There had been so much of uh, expectation around GST. We all had been waiting as tax professionals, when will GST come? So certainly it will be better than the current current tax laws that we have and how they are being practiced both by the corporate sector and by the tax department. Certainly there will be big changes.
Hi Pramod, we had a good session today in terms of the tax trends litigation typically, and most importantly we have covered a lot of issues in the current panel today. Let's focus on three issues, mainly what we discussed during the session today. One is the pendency of the tax litigation and the steps taken by the government, and how we really as an industry we should really act upon, including some alternate paths of resolution. Second, let's focus on the tax terrorism in terms of how the approach of the tax authorities being for last couple of years. And third, and the most critical, is the GST. Now GST is on the way. What do you feel in terms of the GST and the post GST era that litigation will happen in this country? So let's start with the first one. There is a lot of pendency that we discussed during the session today in terms of the litigation across various forums, starting from the adjudication to the Supreme Court. Governments have taken certain steps in terms of resolving that pendency as an issue, or address that pendency as a main of the concern. How do we see the actions of the government? Are those enough, or you see that they should be taking more proactive or the better action time in terms of resolving this pendency?
Right. So I completely agree with you, Rohit. The session went off quite well in terms of the tax litigation, the current pendency, what the government is doing, and what the corporate sector is also supposed to do in response to what the government is doing. So the good thing was, we were not discussing only the problem, we were discussing the solutions also, what the government is doing and what the corporate sector can also do. So the most revealing part was that a Supreme Court in US has not dealt with the case for last 6 years, or a UK High Court has not dealt with the tax case for more than 4 years, where in a country like India, there won't be a day where Supreme Court or a High Court will not be dealing with a tax case on a daily basis. So that's the big difference in statistics and the whole approach of the tax officers. And the good thing is that things are improving. The amount of directions, circulars, clarifications the government has issued in last 1 year or so, and all with an intent to reduce the tax disputes, whether it was in terms of increasing the limit for the tax authorities to hesitate a case before the courts, or it was an instruction that wherever the high courts or Supreme Courts have already opined on that issue, withdraw the litigations. All these steps are in the positive direction. Maybe somewhere the corporate sector also needs to respond and make a clear choice. Do you want to fight every issue, or do you want to somewhere go for a middle path also, where you feel that you don't have a good case, you just buy peace, pay it up, own it up, and move on in life.
Yeah, that's true, because every adverse order at a tribunal should not be appealed against to the Supreme Court. So one should really take a cohesive approach and see how best this can be addressed. So I think that's a fair point. Next, get into the tax terrorism, and that has been the word which has been coined in the era of 4-5 years back, and industry was really facing a lot of challenges. Now last couple of years, to address those issues as well, there have been a lot of initiatives have been taken by the government. Do you really see at a ground level that the concept of terrorism, or in terms of the taxes, and what are the ground reality that you see on the approach of the tax authorities?
So in the outset, let me say, Rohit, terrorism is a very, very heavy word, or a strong word in a field like tax, but maybe it also expresses the sentiment of the taxpayers. This is how they were perceiving the behavior or attitude of a lot of tax authorities. So it was no short of terrorism, and that's where the industry was concerned. The industry was not growing. That's where a lot of improvements are happening, and as again tax practitioner on the corporate side, I've been experiencing a very positive change, where tax authorities have reduced their rigor, have reduced their raw aggression at least. So typical, every year in the month of March, the tax authorities will start chasing you. Can you pay up certain taxes well before time? Can you forego your tax credit claims for a month or so? Can you deposit an ad hoc amount? So those kind of demands, at least I have not seen for last couple of years, and that itself is a positive sign. The second is, when you go and interact with the tax officer, how they come across. So little bit of professionalism is coming. The language that they are talking to you has improved. The timings at which they come to the office has improved. So positive signs, but as I said on the panel also that the real change has to happen. So it looks like it's being pushed from the top, which again is not a bad thing, is happy signals on the ground. But until there is a real change in the mindset and tax authorities start behaving or adopting this kind of a behavior on their own, the real change will not happen. But whatever little steps have happened in last 1 year or 2 years, as a tax practitioner on the corporate, I'm really happy about that.
Also good to know that the industry is satisfactory in terms of what is happening. While it's still long way to go from the change of the perspective, but it still things have started moving in. Last point, let's talk about GST. We had a deliberation on GST discussed along. The key aspects which is in the minds of industry today, that once GST comes in, all the issues of litigation will get addressed and we will effectively have a more easy life, easy ride, easy to do business in India with no worry of the litigation aspect. Do you see really that's happening?
So we should always remain optimistic. There had been so much of expectation around GST. We all had been waiting as tax professionals, when will GST come? So certainly it will be better than the current current tax laws that we have and how they are being practiced both by the corporate sector and by the tax department. Certainly there will be big changes, but I won't take my optimism to the level that entire tax litigation will go away. Probably that will not happen. The type of tax disputes will change, the magnitude of the tax litigation will change. It could change either way. It could become worse also, it could become better also. But yes, the amount of technology that they are embracing and the whole GST will certainly reduce the tax disputes around tax data not being there, tax documents not being there, a lot of reconciliation issues, manual verification of tax documents. So those things will go away, and I'm really hopeful that disputes will be limited to pure legal issues or tax interpretation issues. So at least that positive change will be there.
So yeah, good to know that the fluorous or the procedural aspects which we day to day face a litigation, that would go away and we will be really worried and fighting for the interpretational issues. I think Pramod, it has been a great one. Speaking at the panel and speaking now also is a great experience with you. Thank you very much for participating. Thank you.